online who are watching us live on Facebook Live from IBS channel. And as we all know that today is the day, a very important day that we gather up here to celebrate, to commemorate one of the important day of Buddhism, that is the International Day of VESAK celebration. And each year, every year we celebrate, and we have been celebrating since 2002 or 3, if I'm not wrong. And every year we come here, gather up here at the Mahachula Longkorn Rashavidyalaya University in Wang Noi, Ayutthaya, and also here in UNCC, Bangkok, Thailand. And due to the pandemic last 2 years, it was not possible for us to organize this program. However, this year fortunately we have this chance to come back here again and celebrate the VESAK celebration day, one of the important day. And on behalf of the VESAK International Day, we also had this wonderful opportunity to gather here on this meeting conference room A and held the second World Mindfulness Forum. Whereas the first World Mindfulness Forum was held in 2009 in MCU. So we're waiting for a few minutes of time. I think we also have the opening ceremony of VESAK at the UN SCAP Hall. So we'll be waiting for most of our guests, especially Venerable Professor Dr. Prakupalat Panyawarawat, or Venerable Prajan Hansa Tamahaso, Director of International Buddhist Studies College, to come here and deliver the welcome speech. So before I start, I would also like to make an announcement on behalf of the representative of the UN staffs. So it's a housekeeping announcement that I would like to inform you all. The below is recommended for the event organizer to include in their MC facilitators opening. On behalf of the organizer, we would like to share with you the COVID-19 related precautionary measures while attending meetings at the UNCC. Please observe 1.5 meter physical distancing while sitting in the conference room 3. Seats that should not be used are marked with signatures, and please not move these signatures, chairs or furniture in the room. It is mandatory to wear face masks all the time, except when you take the floor. Disposable microphone covers are available for you to utilize as a precautionary measure. These measures are for your safety and to safeguard the well-being of us all. Now we will play the video on COVID-19 for meeting participants at the UNCC. Thank you for your kind attention and cooperation in advance. So please turn on the video to everyone.
Welcome to the United Nations Conference Center, Bangkok. In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, your safety is our first priority, and we have taken precautionary measures for the protection of everyone in the conference center. All personnel entering the UN premises are subject to thermal screening tests. Hand sanitizers are available throughout the conference center, together with instructions on the correct hygiene procedures. Guidance on preventive measures is displayed around the facility, including contact details of health service providers in Bangkok. All conference halls, meeting rooms, and public spaces have been reconfigured to ensure physical distancing, and we are supporting virtual participation in every way we can.
Okay, thank you for the video for housekeeping announcement. And one more thing that I would like to inform you that due to the protocols and measures in this UNCC hall, as you can see in this conference hall, you cannot see any water bottles. So due to the protocols of for keeping the clean nature, or let's say biodegradable wastes, I would also like to inform you that the IBSC has prepared you with the water bottles that is in front of you. You can have it as a souvenir gift, and you can keep this bottle for this whole day. You can go around the canteen and just fill up the water to drink, okay, for your information. So yes, as we have seen the videos, you are prohibited to open your face masks and walk around here. So I kindly request everyone to please put on your face masks all the time. So we're still waiting for the time because we also have the grand opening at the SCAP hall. So we'll wait for a couple of minutes so that all the participants, especially the on-site participants, are all here. So we know that today, on behalf of the VESAK celebration, an important day for all the Buddhists, not only all the Buddhists, but let's say for the whole world, as the United Nations has declared as one of the important day. So we have all gathered here on behalf of Buddhists and world citizens to be here to learn something or to commemorate the Buddha's Day. And in this occasion, we are also here to this forum, Mindfulness Forum, which is the second World Mindfulness Forum that International Buddhist Studies College of MCU has held since 2019. And for today's forum, as I would also like to introduce most of the distinguished guests, the executives and administrators of International Buddhist Studies College, including we have Assistant Professor Dr. Pratmaha Sompong Kunakaro, the Vice Director of International Buddhist Studies College, MC, is also here. We have Venerable Assistant Professor Dr. Piyaratana from Faculty of Buddhism, Mahachulalongkorn Ratchavidyalaya University. We have Professor Dr. Frank J. Hoffman from International Buddhist Studies College. We have Professor Dr. Wang Sunil and his team from Dongguk University, and the students, especially the students of International Buddhist Studies College, and also the participants who are watching live from Facebook page, Facebook Live. So without further ado, now we'll be moving into the opening ceremony. So Venerable, I would briefly introduce today's chairperson's bio. Venerable Professor Dr. Prakupalat Panjawarawat Hansata Mahaso is currently a professor in Buddhist Studies at International Buddhist Studies College of MCU, and also a secretary to Director of International Association of Buddhist Universities, and Director of IBS MCU. And he's also an experienced meditation teacher, and he has taught many subjects, including modern Buddhism, modern hermeneutics, seminar on Buddhism, and peaceful means studies, Buddhism and current affairs, Buddhist philosophy, seminar on Buddhism, and engaged Buddhism. So without further ado, I would kindly pay respect to Most Venerable Prakupalat Panjawarawat, Venerable Ajahn Hansata Mahaso, to lead us to today's program.
I would like to bring your attention to pay homage to the Buddha together. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธภควาพุทธังภควันตังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตภควตาธัมโมธัมมังนัมสสามิสุปฏิปันโนภควโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาตัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะrespected to อาจารย์มหาสมพงษ์กุณากโร Vice Director for Academic Affairs Professor Chonbok and Professor Hwang Sunin from Dongguk University, Seoul, Korea. Ladies and gentlemen, and today I'm very delighted to have a chance to meet you all. A couple of years ago, we all been here to organize the first World Mindfulness Forum at United Nations. At that time, we talked together. How can we apply mindfulness in the practical way to practice in daily life? No one knows. One day, COVID-19 come to let you all learn and how to understand, especially how to live with COVID-19 properly and mindfully. 2 years back, now we still facing COVID-19. Apart from that, we are facing conflict and war at this moment. There are too many people, not only you, but people in Ukraine, Russia, and surround the world still suffer because of that. But when we look back to the Buddha time, whenever we still suffer, the thing we should do, how can we apply mindfulness to practice in daily life? Mindfulness is foundation to build peace inside your mind. Without mindfulness, it seems to be difficult to survive. One person who would be able to tell you about this matter is the Buddha. When the Buddha stayed in the royal palace, he suffered because of materialism, family, and so on. Every day when the Buddha wake up in the morning, at that time he is Siddhartha Bodhisattva. When he wake up in the morning, he try to ask himself, what is true happiness? The question he tried to ask himself many times, bring him to find out that answer. Eventually he understand that whenever he leave from royal palace, family, and try to find out true happiness inside his mind on the top of the mountain, he know that the tool to bring true peace inside his mind, the tool to cultivate true peace inside his mind will be mindfulness. Mindfulness is like a mother. Mindfulness is like a mother to build everything. Sati, that is its healing. Sati is the name of our mother. So today, this such good time for all of us to come to share whatever the Buddha tried to practice in the past. So how can we apply the way that the Buddha tried to practice in this time? I, on behalf of human being, not just MCU, on behalf of human being, now we come to learn the wisdom that the Buddha tried to show you all if we would like to achieve true happiness. Come back to practice. Practice and practice. Not just share what happened. Not just learn pariyatti. Pariyatti, it seems to be difficult for you all to understand the real Buddha teaching inside your mind, body. The one way to understand the real Buddha teaching, it would be able to understand and explore inside your mind, body. The Buddha never passed away. Just body of the Buddha passed away 2,600 years ago. But the real Buddha still lying inside our mind, body. If you all would like to understand and see who is the Buddha, what is mindfulness? Practice mindfulness, you will see the real Buddha inside there. Welcome you all to explore, see what happened. And I do hope that today you all would be able to share whatever you used to practice in the past to all human beings. They suffer, they need help. They would like somebody to guide them all, to coach them all. You all being here already, please help them. And thank you very much for you all who being here. Buddha bless you all. Thank you.
On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to sincerely thank Venerable Professor Dr. Prakku Palat Panjawarawat, Director of International Buddhist Studies College, MCU, for sharing his wonderful thoughts and delivering the opening remark to the participants both on-site and online here. Now, without further ado, we will move on to our first panel discussion. So before we move on to that, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you to today's moderator for both the sessions. We have Miss Mina Kittikunsiri, who is a learning designer and Power Apps developer at Bangkok Bank. She earned her Bachelor's of Economics from Chulalongkorn University and Master's of Science in Human Resources and Organizations from London School of Economics and Political Science. She also has another Master's in Science in Computer Science from Faculty of Engineering, Chulalongkorn University. So without further ado, I would like to turn over this microphone to Ms. Mina Kittikunsiri to do the further job.
Thank you very much, Pramaha Asirawashiranaku, for being our amazing MC, and Venerable Prakku Palat Panjawarawat for an inspiring and touching opening remarks. My name is Mina, and it's a genuine pleasure to welcome everybody to our first panel discussion on the topic of mindfulness practice in a time of crisis, which is really a relevant topic in today's world where we face various kind of crises. And I'm very thrilled to introduce you all to three amazing scholars who are expert in the field and who have dedicated their lives to the research and the practice of mindfulness. So our first scholar is Professor Dr. Hwang Shu-nu, a dean from College of Buddhism, Dongguk University, Seoul, South Korea. His main field of research is the doctrinal history of Indian Buddhism and the South and Southeast Asian Buddhism culture. He received his PhD from Oxford University concerning the doctrinal history of Nirvana in India. Our second scholar is Professor Dr. Frank J. Hoffman from International Buddhist Studies College, Chulalongkorn Ratchavidyalaya, and visiting scholar associate in South Asia Center at University of Pennsylvania. He received PhD in philosophy of religion at King's College, University of London. He also has 126 published items, including books, article, book reviews, and also an associate editor of the journal Asian Philosophy. And our last scholar is Associate Professor Dr. Venerable W.B. Ratana, a senior lecturer at the Department of Buddhist Study and a director of BA English program at Faculty of Buddhism, Chulalongkorn Ratchavidyalaya University. He earned his PhD in Buddhist study from the Buddhist and Bali University in Sri Lanka and MCU. And the way we structure this panel discussion is, first we will have each of the scholars sharing their presentation on the topic for about 20 minutes each. And then after that, we will move on to the discussion and questions as part of the panel discussion. And the audience will have the opportunity to ask and have conversation with our expert. So if you have any question during the presentation, please wait until the Q&A session, or you can type in the chat in advance. So now let's start with the first presentation from our first scholar, Professor Dr. Huang Chunyu. The stage is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for wonderful introduction. My name is Sunil Huang, and I'm from College of Buddhism in Dongguk University. And it is my great honor to be able to give a talk in this auspicious occasion. And I'm always enjoy coming here in Thailand, and I always believe, in my previous life, I might well be a monk in Bangkok or in Chiang Mai, maybe practice some, Theravada, so-called Theravada Buddhism. Unfortunately, I'm more like a scholar, not a meditation practitioner. So my experience in meditation is very, very limited. So today I'm here, sitting here, to have a lesson from all the venerable monks and scholars. And I hope you can teach me to do a better understanding of Buddhist meditation, especially mindful meditation today. So my topic, mindful practice in the time of crisis. I prepare some slides. Human beings tend to feel a sense of intimacy and fellowship when they belong to a certain group. But the opposite side of the coin is that they also feel, however vaguely, hostility, rivalry against those in other groups. The same phenomena is applied to the feeling people get regarding football team they support without any specific reason. They hate people who support their rival football teams. So in America, for example, Michigan University has got football team, and they fight against other university, and then students fighting each other because they had a stronger bond among the students in their same university. Also, they feel hostile against the rival universities. The same with me, because I'm from Busan in South Korea, and Busan has got very nice a baseball team called the Lotte Giants. So any supporters who support Lotte Giants, we all love and care each other. But at the same time, we feel hostile against the people who support the other team. And somehow this is a kind of inborn nature within the human being. And in the time of crisis, this kind of a national bond or ethnic, intimacy getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So this kind of a feeling getting stronger and stronger and stronger. The crisis going to be deepened and people fight each other, hate each other, and so on. The occasion usually going to be very serious. Perhaps inborn in-group morality or closed ethic could be deeply embedded into human nature through promoting the stronger bond among our members and the hostility toward the other group or strangers. So well-known British atheist called Richard Dawkins, in his book, The God Delusion, he even talked about religion as well. He said, religion is a label of in-group and out-group enmity and vendetta, not necessarily worse than other labels such as skin color, language, or preferred football team, but often available when other labels are not. And he also said, trouble in Northern Ireland, for example, have a deeper political element. But the case here illustrates that religion often plays as a factor that accelerates a breakup of the society. So Buddhist universal morality of not killing, loving kindness and compassion seems not to function properly when it was faced with collective ideas such as a nation state, a racial identity, and with the outburst of conflict and violence among different groups. Even in the case of South Korea, we had a war against Japan in 1592 and 97, and Korean monk build a monk army, and Japanese build the Japanese monk army, and monk fighting each other during the war. So somehow, even though Buddhist wants to have a peace of mind and wants to be, a peaceful person, but when collective ideas confronting each other under the name of nation or under the name of ethnicity, people tend to fight. When the value of a nation state or particular racial identity become more important than individuals, what Buddhists could do is fairly limited, since Buddhist ethics asks for individuals to take full responsibility for their own behaviors. In the time of crisis, people tend to have a more bond toward their own groups, such as a nation state and ethnic group, without showing any tolerance or open-hearted attitude toward other groups. For example, nowadays, we can see Ukraine-Russian war, even the same, people fighting each other without showing any tolerance and sympathy and so on. And also in the case of COVID-19 pandemic, some countries, monopolize vaccines, not allow them to share with the other people. So in many occasions, when group identity become more stronger, this kind of crisis become deeper and make us fighting each other. However, a true Buddhist should refrain from identifying friends and foes and confronting enemies under no circumstance, whether it is about nation state, ethnic group, or religion. In the time of a crisis, universal morality of Buddhism calling on people to show their loving kindness and compassion toward all living beings without having any distinctions. How to develop such a skillful attitude toward the other groups without overwhelmed by enmity and violence and vendetta and so on. Well, how we can do that? We can do that. Or what kind of method we can apply? I think in early Buddhist text, vipassana tended to be called as a tebija, three knowledges. And three knowledges tend to be anicca, dukkha, anatta. So anicca, my translation is nothing lasts forever. And dukkha, it will eventually give us suffering or unsatisfactoriness. And anatta, there is nothing belongs to me, including myself. So this is one of the key insight through which we should see the world, through which we should see around us, through which we should see within ourselves. So currently we are living in an unbalanced state between what we want and what we actually get. So we are living under compromised state in our ordinary life. And that is why we are easily, getting into the group ideas and fight each other. So one of my monk friends usually show me this one, and this left side, you can see people enjoy dancing and music and so on. People feel very happy, but they all felt this happiness belongs to me, or this is mine, and my life is very enjoyable. But from the eye of vipassana, from the eye of insight of anicca, dukkha, anatta, it doesn't belong to me, and everyone will disappear, in very soon. So establishing mindfulness based on understanding of anicca, dukkha, anatta in every moment of our life is very important to have a better understanding of the world. But for me, the mindfulness is very difficult word, not easy to understand. So one day I went to Hong Kong to have a Hong Kong Underground, and the Hong Kong Underground has got that signpost said, "Please mind the gap." So actually, in between train and the platform, there was a gap. If you go to England, the gap is so wide, you can easily, going down. So in any moment, you cannot remember. So sati is Pali word, and Sanskrit is smriti. And smriti basically means remember. If you are not remember the triple mark of the phenomenal world, anicca, dukkha, and anatta, you are in trouble. Just like that, you are in the underground, and you forgot about the gap in between train and the platform, then you will be in trouble. So mindfulness, one should constantly and perpetually recognize the fact that there is nothing, whether one like it or not, lasts forever, anicca. Everything eventually gives us suffering, dukkha, and thus there is nothing we can say this belongs to me, or this is myself, anatta. So if we have this kind of insight through which we can see the world, we will see the real picture of the world we are living in. When mindfulness is fully established, one is, according to the early Buddhist text, one is losing interest in body, feeling, perception, intention, and consciousness, and so on. Being without interest, his lust fade away. With the fading away of the lust, his heart is liberated. So this is a typical sentence in the early canon where people talk about being liberated from all the attachment and defilement and passion inside of us. So in the liberation, the following knowledge occur. In this case, in the case of the Buddha, the birth is destroyed, religious life is fulfilled, done what should be done. There is no more new existence in this realm. This is for the higher level. But how about the lay Buddhist? And how about the Buddhism applied into the world? That's the problem. Buddhist mindful practice could be the tool to make us apart from our habitual tendencies to identify friends and foes, and to confront them as an enemy with hostility and violence. So territorial dispute, Korea had a territorial dispute with North Korea, Japan, and China, and China, all surrounding area had the territorial dispute. But from the eye of vipassana, that kind of a borderline, we tend to feel like it's permanent, but it never been the permanent. It's all anicca. That kind of borderline cannot last forever. Even the racial identity, as far as I understand about Korean people, we all believe all Korean people are just one single ethnic group, one single ethnic race. And according to the legend, our first ancestor coming down from the sky, getting married with a bear, and Korean people, established it. But when we actually had what is it, gene test among the people in South Korea, and Korean people are actually mixed with the northern race and Chinese and Japanese as well. So it's actually mixed race. So all kind of a conception, we thought this is permanent, this will last forever, actually cannot last forever. So once we are attached to that kind of a concept, that concept will eventually give us, sometimes give us, happiness, but usually give us suffering. So that, the world we are living in will be suffer, as far as I understand. Buddhist mindful practice could also develop the state of mind full of equanimity, upeka, toward all living beings without separating our group from other groups. Lay Buddhists tend to develop individual metta, individual karuna, only for one's own relatives and friends. But true Buddhists, with the help of mindful practice, to develop Maha Metta and Maha Karuna. So I'm a layman, so my metta, become happy when other people become happy, apply only to my relatives, only to my friend, and so on. So people naturally make a kind of a borderline, and within the borderline, we feel like they are our side. And outside of borderline, we feel like they are the other people. Then we develop some kind of hostility and violence as well. But true Buddhists should develop Maha Metta and Maha Karuna. And according to the early Buddhist text, this is the quality of the Buddha we should follow. Buddhists, in the time of crisis, should develop Maha Metta and Maha Karuna for all living beings without making any distinction. When all Buddhists have developed Maha Metta and Maha Karuna for all living beings, the world we are going to live in would be a lot better than the world we are living in now. So Maha Metta and Maha Karuna, I didn't explain. So Maha Metta and Maha Karuna, which means we have a happy mind when other people become happy. We have a sad mind when other people become sad. Maha Metta and Maha Karuna, there is no distinction. Once we develop that mind, even the enemies, even the people we hate, when they become sad, and we also become sad. When they happy, when we become happy. This is not an easy thing we can actually do. And I had a problem to develop. For example, as a Korean citizen, sometimes I feel like I have to be happy when North Korean leader successfully launch nuclear missile. I should be happy, and something like that. This is not very easy. So in actual world, from our own human nature, developing Maha Metta and Maha Karuna is very difficult, very difficult. And but when I did some mindful practice with my Vipassana teacher, I sometimes, when I had a feeling against him occur, I tended to turn my attention away to my body, where my body is responding. Then I try to focus my body, and the feeling of my body when disappear, my hatred against certain people tended to be disappear. That's a kind of a goenka vipassana practice. When I did it, and sometimes I feel like someone give me a hate word, but when I accept it, and then I turn my attention to my body, where my body responds, and then I can answer him back with a smile and happiness and so on. So this is a very nice way to turn our hatred and our violence into our happiness and our understanding. So mindful practice actually do that. And Tibetan Buddhists as well do the similar. So once I was in India with a Tibetan teacher, I did a visualization meditation. And I said to my teacher, it is not easy to develop the mind of Mahametta and Mahakaruna. And my teacher said to me, close your eyes and visualizing your heart. Make your metta in the form of lead shape, heart shape, and then make it and give it to your mother. And next one, give it to mother. And all the person I knew, I just give it. And then my teacher said, give it to someone you know. So give it to the president of South Korea, give it to the, minister and university staff. And I said to her, no more people I can give it. Then she said to me that then you should share your metta and your karuna with the people you hate. So at that very moment, for the first time, I gave my heart to the leader of North Korea. I share my heart with some other people. And then miraculously, after my visualization meditation, I feel less and less feeling of hostility and vendetta against them. So this is a kind of a practice we Buddhists should do. But the problem is that we are doing it in individual level, not in a group level. So Buddhists should develop that kind of mind one by one, but we cannot do it in a kind of group level. When all Buddhists have developed Mahametta and Mahakaruna, so this is the ideal place we should go, then the world we are living in could be a lot better. So usually when people talk about that, I usually answer them back by, the thing of John Lennon, the thing imagined in the later half part, he said, you may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. And one day you will join us, then the world will be as a one, and we are living in a harmonious places. So Buddhist practice, whether it is vipassana, whether it is a visualization meditation, or whether it is a Zen meditation, we are aiming at developing that kind of a peaceful, harmonious mind called upekkha. Upekkha is the place, as the Venerable Dhammahamsa said, mother of meditation, mother of Buddhist practice. So that mind, if all the Buddhists can develop it, we can actually transform. The effort of each and every Buddhist could transform the world of crisis with the full of confrontation, hostility, and violence into the world of a harmonious middle without leading to conflict, destruction, and devastation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Huang Shiniu, for the wonderful sharing and remind us how we should refrain from identifying friends and foes, especially in the crisis time, and instead to show our loving kindness, compassion to all living beings. And now, let's move to the next presentation from Professor Dr. Frank Hoffman from International Buddhist Studies College, MCU.
It works. Can you all hear me? Thank you very much for inviting me here, leadership. This is our first panel discussion, and in my introduction here, I would like to introduce you to a book called Community Violence and Peace. Aldo Leopold, the environmentalist, Mohandas K. Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and Gautama Buddha in the 21st century, with the theme of crisis that Hermans opens his book with. It is because of crisis that reflective people can confront the problems and try to analyze and solve them. Today, one sees how wars, global warming, race hatred, and social fragmentation harm us personally and globally. A solution may be found in non-harming, ahimsa, and that includes non-injury and, of course, non-violence too. There are crises of various kinds, but solutions may be found if, instead of giving into habitual ways of thinking, we begin to see things differently as opportunities for cooperation rather than conflict. The book, Mindful Mediation, by John Connell, points the way to mediating conflicts between neighbors. In its example, the giant mango trees, mango trees being usually a shared resource, but it became a disputed area when one man thought of individual ownership and rights. The two who argued eventually became friends by reflection and mediation, but it took patience and time. Today, I will discuss how conflict arises and how it may cease from Buddhist perspectives. My remarks are meant as stimuli to crosstalk with my co-presenters on the panel and also with the audience. The background: sickness of mindlessness over consumption and metta to oneself first. Harm to animals, earth, and humans results from mindless consumption and a lack of loving kindness to oneself, and then to all the beings who feel pain. Without a basis in metta, that my colleague was just speaking of, and Mahametta in particular, to oneself first, it's easy to fall into the trap of being a doormat to the world, and hence, in the long run, being resentful that you tried this practice. As the author Erich Fromm discussed in Herman book, informed us some time ago, Erich Fromm did, that Western society was sick, was going insane with its overemphasis on consumption, on food, sex, movies, and violent behavior. And by the way, that's our biggest export from America, our biggest export, our most harmful gift to the world. And all this was, of course, to the neglect of how to build sustainable communities and serve the least advantaged members. Rachel Carson, in her book, Silent Spring, had rung the alarm bell long before environmental degradation had come to this crisis in the 21st century. In short, overconsumption of the Earth's resources in a mindless way, has led to violence to the environment and eventually back to ourselves. It's a loop. Metta has to start with the individual first in order to be truly effective in helping others. Wisdom from the Sutta Pitaka. I just referenced 3 sutta. There are so many riches in Sutta Pitaka, we could spend a lifetime trying to unpack them. I start with Sedaka Sutta. Bamboo Acrobat Sutta is its nickname. It shows how mindfulness starts in our own case by not checking the teacher's steps on the high wire as he instructed Metta Katholika, but checking one's own steps. So the teacher told her, please watch my steps, dear one, because I'm afraid I might slip. She said, oh no, master, this will never do. If I watch my steps, I will be successful, and you watch your steps, we will be successful. Then we will come down from the high wire, get paid for our work, and go on. She shows how loving kindness starts with being kind to oneself. Discourse on Perfect View Samadhi Sutta, is on about knowing the distinction between skillful and unskillful kamma and refraining from raga, dosa, moha, which I translate obsession, hatred, and confusion, stopping what fuels rebirth by following the Eightfold Noble Path, and the result would be suffering is eliminated. To eliminate grasping, to understand the Four Noble Truths, to understand the defilements, the asavas, to understand the Eightfold Way. I reference my little teaching book. It's not a scholarly book, Introduction to Early Buddhism, which I use at IBSC. Third sutta, Discourse on Being Angry, Kodana Sutta. 7 ways where hate and irritability being another translation of Kodana, can harm oneself if one does not adopt self-control, clear seeing, resilience, and right view. Anger and irritability affects one's physical and mental health and is self-destructive and socially dangerous too. I just tell a quick anecdote. The wife of Medgar Evers saw Medgar shot down in his front yard, going to work in front of his whole family. So she began to hate all white people. And when she saw the Dixie flag, she hated it. But one day, a child of hers came home and said, "Mommy, I don't understand. The teacher said, Jesus is love and we should love everyone. But you say to hate white people." At this point, she had a change of heart. She broke down and cried and cried. That's what this is about, a change of heart. Mindful living. Thich Nhat Hanh, author of many books, including Peace in Every Step, is Every Step, advocates creating a culture of peace and recognition of interbeing with every mindful step, such as, in practice, every day, mindful walking, mindful eating, mindfulness in everyday activities. The way I think, in this way, ideally, all of life could become a meditation, instead of meditation being just an event in life. For sure, this is a difficult thing to do. For sure, if we try it, we're only making little bitty baby steps every day. But what we have to remember is the takeaway point: humans are among the beings that inhabit the planet Earth, and they intersect with all life. In other words, we're not the main event. Theory and practice. Payuto's Samasati book emphasizes several key ideas. Social value is emphasized, as I would say in the Bamboo Acrobat Sutta. Value for getting wisdom, we speak here of wisdom for the world, is really eradication of defilements as an essence of satipatthana. Payuto speaks. The fruits of sati, of remembering, of mindfulness, such as keeping abreast of the present moment, which keeps mind from wandering, whatever we do. In the ideal case, mindfulness, sati, is the guardian of the mind. And also, it can be the object in front of the mind for consideration. Buddhadasa's 5 skillful tricks in his very useful and intelligently edited in English book, Mindfulness with Breathing. Following the breath. 2, guarding the breath. 3, giving rise to a nimitta, an imaginary image that is the guarding point. 4, manipulating those images in any ways we want in order to gain power over the images. 5, selecting one of these images and contemplating it in a most concentrated way until they become truly calm and peaceful. Buddhadasa himself prefers the tiny white dot or the white image. but recognizes we can use many colors, blue, green, red, whatever, but not to get fixed on something. That's the key. Not to, for example, take a Buddha image and think, oh, my dear Buddha image, will it come back today? Will I experience the nimitta today? No, let things be. Let things be. With this, it's possible to arrive at perfect awareness in the first stage of jhana. It's surely not the whole story, but in the first stage of jhana. About Buran Kamathana, the old tradition. I reference this because it's been very much in the recent scholarship, and I want to point you to four people who've been developing this idea. I think it's a disputable question as whether or not and to what extent this intersects with Thai Theravada, but I want to put it in front of you as an object of reflective contemplation. Crosby 2020 explains the technologies of transformation, Kate Crosby, in Buran Kamathana, the old tradition, and what happened to suppress them in the modern era. A very interesting story indeed. Kasaniti 2018 explains mindfulness and its psychological power to get what you want. Very direct. Cook 2010 explains meditation in modern Buddhism to help one develop their psychological and emotional capacities. Well, collectively, these three books, by the way, all written by a woman, shed light on the benefits of Buddhist practice in terms of technologies of transformation, development of psychological and emotional capacities. So what we see here in this recent development in at least Western scholarship is that the development I reference in premise 4 is a shift away from pariyatti texts alone that have been separated from patipatti practice. So my conclusion here is that according to recent research, meditating in the old tradition can unleash the technologies of transformation, develop the psychological power to succeed, to develop one's psychological and emotional capacities, combine with text studies and practice together, and overall to discover the benefits of being Buddhist. I'll tell you a little joke. When I first arrived at IBSC, many of my students talked about benefits in class. I wasn't used to this. I wasn't used to it at all. I think in American Buddhism, we don't talk much about benefits, but maybe we should. Why are you doing this anyway? The process of mindful mediation. John McConnell's amazing book, which I've used in classes and subsequently become much more interested in how to do mindful mediation, although that's not my specialty. One, know how Buddhist concepts can be understood to provide psycho-spiritual foundation for peacemaking. To understand the story of the great mango trees and how self-centered individualistic thinking, a feeling of possessiveness, righteousness, and legalistic maneuvering leads to conflict with others. 3, learning how to apply Buddha Dhamma to analyze conflict and resolve it. 4, developing skills in conflict resolution, such as deep listening. Not just listening while thinking what you're going to say next, deep listening. Speaking sensitively, maintaining balance, and ensuring confidentiality. I think at some times in your Buddhist lives, you're going to be called upon unexpectedly to practice mediation. I hope you can remember these. 5, contemplating Buddha's own initiative to mediate conflict with the quarrelsome monks of Kosambi and when mediating between the Koyan and the Sakyan states. And finally, developing trust and goodwill between the conflicting parties, as happened in the incident of the great mango trees, and using that perception and feeling, that trust and goodwill to mediate between them. This is truly a handbook for Buddhist peacemakers. Here's my recap and conclusion. Now it's time to sum up. I promised you in the beginning I would talk about how conflict arises and how it may cease from Buddhist perspectives. So here you are. Instead of giving into habitual ways of thinking, we need to see things differently as opportunities for cooperation rather than conflict. Mindful mediation points the way to mediating conflicts between neighbors in its example, the giant mango trees, usually a shared resource, but it became a disputed area when people thought of individual ownership and rights. The two who argued eventually became friends by reflection and mediation. Notice it took a skillful mediator to bring them together. Obviously, they couldn't do this by themselves. They were too polarized. Arthur Herman begins his book, Community Violence and Peace, with a discussion of crisis. Nowadays, we can see how wars, global warming, race, hatred, and social fragmentation harm us personally and globally. We become less by hating. We might think in triumphalism, we become greater. But exactly the opposite is true. We lessen ourselves by hating. We see this as Buddhists. Non-harming, and that includes non-injury and non-violence too, is the means. Non-harming. Non-violence, as Christopher Key Chappell says in one of his books, will help animals, earth, and you. Mindful living with the acrobat sutta, Sedika, mindful walking, mindful eating, as Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh says, mindfulness in everyday activities so that ideally all of life becomes the meditation, and meditation is not just an event in life. Payuta's book, Samasati, shows how Bhikkhu Buddhadasa's anapanasati, mindfulness with breathing, works. Recently, books by Cook, Casaniti, and Crosby have illuminated the importance and the present-day application of Buran Kamatana. This is one of my favorite books, and it's not much known, and I would really like people to know more about it. It's actually a brilliant book out of Sri Lankan Theravada tradition. RGS Wetamuni explains the egolessness as the key to eliminate suffering. Egolessness. Buddhism is the complete unbinding, the nibbana. Crises are avoidable if there is a mindset of non-ego. At best, humankind can work together in an egoless way, and at worst, we can destroy ourselves and the planet by uncompromising competitive behavior. I can think of no more fitting conclusion than to cite this part of John McConnell's own conclusion in his book, Mindful Mediation, a handbook for Buddhist peacemakers. Essentially, the Dhamma belongs where there is suffering. The Dhamma belongs in the hearts and minds of people. It belongs where people are and in what they do. Certainly, Dhamma begins in the what, but it also belongs in the market and in the battlefield. Wish you a pleasant conference.
Thank you for a really interesting presentation. Dr. Frank has reminded us that mindfulness shouldn't be just an event in life, but should be adopted in every moment. Just like when Professor Dr. Huang Shunil said that we should adopt the concept of anicca, dukkha, anatta in every moment of our life. And I really agree with the concept that we should metta or be kind to ourselves first before taking care of others. Because I know a lot of social worker or caregiver who are burning out from their work, and when they turn back and try to balance to be compassionate but not take on the problems, they are more better able to help and give back to the society in the long run. And lastly, Dr. Hoffman said that it's important that we all develop the skill for conflict resolution, such as deep listening or speaking sensitively and remain the balance. And now, before we go into the next presentation, we are going to have a 5-minute coffee break. So we will get back here in this room at 10:05 for the last presentation for the first panel discussion.